Yes,
we were planning on jumping straight into sweeps, but we decided that it's really important to go over an overview of sweeps, what it is, definition. There are at least two main stages of the sweep.
Yep.
And so when we're talking about sweeps, we're talking about knocking somebody down from guard specifically and being able to get into a top position.
Yep.
And so it awards points in competition. And there's two main parts of the sweep. There's the part where we actually have to have that kazushi, where we have off-balance our opponent and we have knocked them down into a vulnerable state. And then we actually have to get up. And there's that second part is a part that a lot of people suck at.
Yeah, and if you want to be really like autistic about it, you could say that there's three parts. There's the kazushi, and then there's the actual part where you sweep the person down.
Against someone good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like when we get into kazushi against better people, it doesn't move them very much. When you do kazushi against beginners, they fall right over, and then you can just complete the sweep. So against, let's be honest, most grapplers, there's two stages. Against really good grapplers, there's probably three.
Yeah.
And maybe even four if you want to get really like down a rabbit hole.
So in order for someone to fall over, their center of gravity has to shift outside of their platform of support.
Yeah.
If that does not occur, someone's never going to fall over. And so what we have to do is we need to be able to manipulate somebody to take them from a position, like say here it is from a kneeling, where my center of gravity is here, and I got my support underneath me. And if it can be shifted outside of my base, I will fall over. Now, as I fall over there, I extend and I actively post with whatever available limbs that I have. And so if you are not doing a good job of blocking your opponent's ability to reestablish base and actively post, as Rob pushes me over here.
Let's use butterfly guard as a simple example here. So this is to distinguish between kazushi alone and then kazushi with some mechanism of preventing posting. If I just do a kazushi there, like he went off balance for a second, but he regained his base, right? But that is an actual sweep. But it's not a sweep yet, because if I let go, I'm like, job done. Ah, crap, he just popped back up. So kazushi, denying him the ability to post, and now I need to deny him the ability to do a technical stand-up. And I get on top. So that's really what we're doing when we're sweeping somebody. We're taking them off balance, we're preventing them from regaining their balance, and then when they fall down, we're preventing them from getting up.
And so this was a cool thing that I recall when I was first learning from you, is you talked about the term scramble and how you define scramble as a race to base. Because when you see a whole bunch of explosive, exciting movements and everyone's like, holy crap, what is scramble? It's really whoever is getting to the best base can generate the optimal force and is probably going to win that battle. And so what always happened when I was trying to sweep people when I was new is I did a great job knocking them down, letting go of everything, and then scrambling up. Sometimes I win, sometimes I don't, but it's usually very energy intensive.
Exactly.
And then you're like, but if you stayed in control the whole time and just denied them base, the scramble doesn't technically exist because you're winning the whole time. And I was like, what?
Well, with the first project that I did with Stefan, which was the BJJ formula, he messaged me, I don't know, 6 months after we were done filming, and he said, like, based on this rubric that you've given, he's like, what would you say, like 50 to 80% of sweeps in jiu-jitsu don't really work? I'm like, yeah, that's probably about right. A lot of sweeps that you're taught, it's just the other person falls down and chooses to stay down, and you don't have a mechanism for actually keeping them down. And then as you start to compete against better people, they just get back up. And so you have all these, they're not sweeps, they're knockdowns. There are a lot of ways of knocking people down in jiu-jitsu. There aren't that many ways to actually successfully sweep someone.
And so when we're talking about denying them base, we got to control their limbs so that they're unable to post. That can be, depending on the kind of sweep, a lot of them are going to be controlling the legs, so someone can't perform a technical stand-up in which they're trying to withdraw their legs to get back into an athletic position, or even just being able to like spin the legs over to get into something like more of a sprinter stance to run away. Or like that in the that butterfly sweep example, it's like you're denying me the ability to withdraw my arms to build back up onto my elbow, because you can control my legs to an extent, but if I'm able to start building up and posting onto my hand, I will eventually start to be able to mobilize some base. And while you can still obviously control me to an extent there, the scramble starts to become a little more apparent in the situation.
Yeah, exactly. So a good simple rule to follow is that you need to control both posts on one side.
Yeah.
But that's not the only way to do it. You can, like, I can control your arm and leg on one side to prevent you from getting up, but I can also just control both your legs to keep you from getting up. So side becomes like, side can mean any side.
Yeah.
Right? I can control both your arms, I can control both your legs, I can control your right arm and your right leg, I can control your left arm and your left leg, and that will make it next to impossible for you to get up.
Yeah, because that's something that I see that's quite frustrating when we see Instagram techniques and other stuff like that, is false pauses that are developed because somebody just sucks at base and staying on top. And so if I'm trying to do something that doesn't have the post controlled, like say if here, if you just kind of stand up lightly here, Rob, and I just grab your hip and I start pushing you like this and Rob falls over, I did nothing to actually control his back leg there. And so realistically what happens anytime I try to do this to Rob is Rob's just going to start adjusting his leg and stepping it back, and that's what any good person's going to do. I'm only controlling one leg. Even here, if I control an arm, like Rob said, it doesn't matter that I'm blocking off the right side of Rob's body here if we turn, because I'm not able to actually generate force in that direction to try and do anything here. So me just trying to push Rob back at this point does nothing if I don't control that leg. So you have to think about, if the direction of that sweep, are you going right to your left, to your right, up to like a front 45 to the right or a front 45 to the left, back at 45, back at 45 to the right, straight back? And we got to think about, well, how is our opponent going to be trying to recompose their base there and actively pose to fight this? And if I'm not shutting down that corner that I'm taking them to, I'm never going to have success.
Yeah, and we'll do a video, I guess, at some point on sweep recovery, which is basically how do we take advantage of some of the information we have here and use it to prevent ourselves from being swept or prevent a sweep from being completed. We use the term sweep completion quite a bit in here, and sweep recovery, because the idea of a sweep just knocking you down and that being the end of the job is obviously not something we advocate. But when we do talk about it, we will be talking about how we can maneuver our base and how can we maneuver our posts. So as the sweeper, your job is basically to take somebody's center of gravity and whatever amount of momentum they've given you, take control of it, take control of their ability to post, and then, depending on how good they are and how good you are, you will have a battle for that ability to post. So we will knock someone down, and then it can be as simple as just controlling both limbs, but it's rarely that simple against somebody good. You're generally going to have people often use the term scramble, which I don't like because it implies that it's disorganized and that it's
kind of an ambiguous term.
It's very yeah, exactly. So the idea is that if I have got more knowledge, even if I'm less athletic, because that's what people associate a scramble with, the better athlete wins. And I don't think that's true, unless you want to use the definition of athlete as somebody with superior technique. Then sure, yeah, the better athlete wins. But just because somebody is faster, more explosive, has better balance, that shouldn't mean that they win. If I control you properly from start to finish, you shouldn't have enough physical resources to win a scramble. So our goal when we're sweeping people is to control them so much that even if they happen to be a superior athlete to us, superior physically, we just have so much mechanical control of them that they're not able to build enough base to recover once we've initiated the process. And there will be times when that's more difficult and times when that's easier, but you need to be aware of it throughout the whole process. And when people aren't aware of it is where they lose it. They knock someone down, they just pop right back up.
And so there's many different sweeps from many different guards against different stances that your opponent are taking. So what we're going to do in this sweeping module for this instructional is we're going to teach you guys the scissor sweep against a kneeling opponent, because that's a staple that a lot of people learn. Yeah. It doesn't work as well at the higher levels, but you have a very unique way of teaching it that elevated my scissor sweeps that I could use it at higher levels. And then also the tripod sweep, which is one of the most powerful basic sweeps against a standing opponent. So you're going to have two sweep options against different stances that you're going to be commonly facing in jiu-jitsu. And hopefully with the insight that we're going to provide and the kind of the mechanics of these sweeps and some of the concepts behind it, you're going to be able to take that and evaluate other sweeps that you're looking at, so that as you're getting better, you're not going to be training these sweeps that just don't work on better guys, because that's what's constantly happening. So it should hopefully give you a criteria to assess the other techniques that you want to work on. And
one thing that we should add before we conclude is, just for, again, like clarity for points purposes, for things like that, it's really important to recognize, because we get this question a lot, like somebody goes from bottom to top and they're like, well, wasn't that a sweep? It's not a sweep unless you start from a guard. Turtle is not a guard. Bottom side control is not a guard. These are reversals. So just to be really clear here, if I'm on the bottom of side control and Rory, let's say, overcommits his weight and I roll him over, That is not a sweep. That is a reversal. I will score no points for that. The gain is considered to be the fact that I went from a shit position to a good
you were
position.
significantly losing.
Yeah,
It's impressive that you managed to reverse it. And
Yes.
embarrassing as fuck. for me.
Absolutely.
But
you will not score. So if you're interested in competing, understand the distinction between a sweep and a reversal, and just know that you gain nothing from a scoring perspective for going from bottom negative position to top dominant position. It's only when you start with a defined guard.